Taking a risk in film can either make or break your career. It can send you on the highest of highs with applause from your fellow cinephiles, or it can send you crashing down and laughed right out of the business. Some risks are mandatory, but others seem like a bad decision right from the get-go. Like shooting a movie almost entirely in Dutch angles like they did in Battlefield Earth. That's pretty bad and a needless risk. Or maybe during the height of the slasher boom of the early 80s, ignoring the studio wishes and making a drama-filled artsy horror film instead. Paramount bought the rights to the production of 1982's The Sender with hopes of it being a slasher like Friday the 13th or My Bloody Valentine, but instead director Roger Christian didn't want to approach The Sender as a slasher. Christian remarked that he wanted to make a film that was more Bergman than Carpenter. The Sender failed so hard at the box office because of this decision. And the best part is that Battlefield Earth and The Sender share the same director, aforementioned Roger Christian, and while both films were major missteps, the latter benefits from these risks in hindsight. Yes, The Sender failed at the box office, but because of the decision to avoid delving into the slasher genre, it became a much more powerful and cerebral horror film. The Sender is good and the best rated film on Roger Christian's filmography as a director, sitting at a respectable 6.0 on IMDb. I don't hear a lot of people talk about The Sender from 1982, but the premise sounds interesting enough, dealing with telepathic powers, dreams that affect the real world, and an overbearing mother? Yep, sign me up. Let's find out if The Sender is a hidden cult classic waiting to be unearthed, or if it should be left obscure. Welcome to the Hellbound Horror Show. John Doe wakes up next to a beach. He walks towards the water and puts a big rock in his shirt, and he tries to drown himself. Well, John Doe doesn't know who he is, and he's transported to the state's local mental hospital. Oh my goodness, this movie's gonna be super insensitive, isn't it?
Yep.
A product of its time?
Of course.
Full of really bad stereotypes.
You betcha.
Plenty of cringe performances and an ignorant script.
Oh yeah.
Even though we know better now, I'm gonna try to look past all of it. Clearly, it's gonna have some moral problems, but let's face it, what horror movie from the 70s and 80s doesn't? We meet Dr. Gail Farmer, who takes care of John Doe number 83. This John Doe doesn't remember much. The patients show him around and a weird incident happens where one of the patients randomly becomes afraid of John Doe 83. That night, while home alone, Gail hears someone break into her house. It's a pretty creepy scene with a shadowy figure walking in the background. She calls the cops, and before they arrive, she sees John Doe in her house. The cops come, and when they look for John, they can't find him or any sign of entry. Gail calls the hospital, and John Doe never left the facility. John Doe's mother visits the next day, and John doesn't want to go home with her. Gail talks to her, but the mother is being super sus and says some vague, cryptic stuff like, "You're dealing with things you shouldn't." Well, when Gail turns her back, the mother is gone.
Tell him John Doe's mother is here. Thank you.
And no one saw her leave. Gail begins to put the pieces together. John Doe and her have a psychic link. She can see through his eyes, especially when he's annoyed or aggravated, and she proves this by guessing the color of the cards that he picks up.
Red card. Black card. Red card. Black. Black. Red.
0 out of 10.
And she guesses every single one wrong. Well, she says, what are the odds that I would get every single one of them wrong? This upsets John Doe and he runs off. The lead doctor doesn't want Gale to interfere with him anymore, and as Gale goes to the bathroom, the mirrors bend and break. Streams of blood fall from the mirrors, which is honestly a really nice touch. I like it. This obviously means that John is trying to cut himself in the shower in the basement. That lead doctor immediately tries shock therapy and oops, that was a bad idea. Through John's distress, everyone starts jumping around and doing flips. When Gale runs in and stops it, everything goes back to the way it was. But everyone still remembers it. It is abundantly clear that John Doe and his mother had some trouble in the past, but John can't really remember it. John is becoming more destructive, and the doctors try to stop him before even more damage is done. Is John Doe 83 some sort of messiah? Will the doctors be able to fix him, or will Gale help free him? Will his mother help save his life? What's going to happen to the sender? The Sender is such an interesting film, often overlooked and underappreciated. The Sender has a lot going for it. Is it a lost cult classic? Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it should be more widely remembered than it is. Not a lot of people are even talking about it on YouTube. There is not a lot of information out there. Yes, I do have the DVD, but there's no special features on here. There is an American Blu-ray, but it's just as bare bones. Now, there was an Arrow Films Blu-ray only released in the UK, but that seems to be out of print right now. If you can get your hands on it though, pick it up because it has a plethora of special features for you to sink your teeth into. Many people believe that Wes Craven was inspired by this movie, especially when he was writing A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. The hospital setting, a rogue doctor that understands and wants to help, nightmares that cause problems in the real world. There could be some truth to this because Wes Craven was a fan of the Sender scriptwriter Thomas Baum, and both would later collaborate on Nightmare Cafe, the TV series. The Sender is full of good cinematography, good lighting, decent special effects, fair script, interesting approach, satisfactory music, and good performances. The movie is a little slow at times, and even Paramount knew this when trying to distribute the film. Paramount tried to cut the film to start with the ending and then use flashbacks throughout to help the pacing, but the editor and director Roger Christian both argued to keep it how it was supposed to be, and they both got their wishes. I also argue that The Sender doesn't really hit its ending. It's a fine ending, I guess. I just feel like there's some missed potential. If somehow the stakes were a tiny bit higher, or the threat was a little bit more intimidating, the ending could have had a stronger statement and really cemented itself above just being pretty good. There could have been a lasting impact, but it sort of just fizzled out for me. There's nothing really wrong with The Sender, but also in the same breath, there's not much that it really nails out of the park. It's a perfectly good movie, and it took some risk, and I commend it for taking those risks. I just wanted a little bit more. As is, if you own The Sender or can easily watch The Sender, definitely do so. You're not going to regret your time with it. It's perfectly fine. You might not love it, but you'll like your time with it. But if you don't own it or don't have easy access to it, then you're probably safe not hunting it down. And that's all I have for tonight. So thank you so much for watching, and stay spooky, everyone.